As an introduction to myself, my name is Ed Parker Jr. I was given the birth name Edmund Kaloha Parker Jr. I'm the son of Senior Grandmaster Ed Parker, who is attributed as being one of the pioneers of martial arts in the United States. He was also credited um, as being one of the key individuals in helping launch the careers of Bruce Lee, Chuck Norris. He also, for a time period, was Elvis Presley's martial arts instructor as well as a bodyguard for him. He'd done a tremendous amount of stuff in his time, and he had passed away about 17 years ago, and was definitely one of the pioneer greats in martial arts in the United States. Myself, I've not exactly followed in his footsteps. As a professional, I'm an artist. I do artwork, I do illustrations, but most of my artwork is dedicated towards raising the level of professionalism for the martial arts industry. In my career, I've done about 647 portraits of different martial artists throughout the world. My artwork is found in each of the 50 states in the United States and in every country around the world. On the martial arts side, I have taught well over 1,000 seminars in my career. I've taught in over 12 countries and a good 30-something states in the United States. It's not necessarily my primary focus has been that, but it's definitely during certain seasons I go out there. I do not run a school full-time, but I'm more the kind of guy that likes to go out there and teach the instructors and teach different people about learning different philosophies and concepts and ideas for today's legal environment. A lot of stuff that we do in martial arts isn't necessarily things that we can do legally without, nowadays with cell phone cameras and people with video cameras, using certain levels of martial arts and having witnesses is very likely, and a lot of times you can't get away with certain things. And so as a result, you have to look and redefine things as such as self-defense. If you're studying an art, the arts are fine, and there's some phenomenal arts out there. I personally was raised in what we call the American Kenpo industry. How I got involved in martial arts is literally I was born into it. I was born in 1959. During that time period, there wasn't a lot of kids at all in the martial arts industry. So I was one of the first children to take martial arts. I didn't take it seriously growing up, and I didn't really get involved heavily in the martial arts until I was in my 20s. Being asked, what were some of the teachers that I was influenced? I was definitely a student of Ed Parker Sr. After he passed away, my primary instruction came from a man named Dr. Ron Chappell. Dr. Chappell had raised me, and I was awarded my black belt under him. A huge foundation of my arts came from Ed Parker, and then since his passing, a good 8, maybe 10 years of my training came under Dr. Chappell. I found him to be a brilliant martial artist, incredibly intelligent individual, and for me in my journey, I find that the physical is great, but you also have to really spark my intellect, and he did a phenomenal job of that. I think the man is brilliant. I think his talents are phenomenal. I've also trained under a gentleman by the name of Frank Trejo, as well as a man named Richard Hutt Planis, who is also one of the people who's heavily influenced my training. Let's see, some of the best memories of my martial arts, because I find that martial artists are some of the most passionate people on the planet, is why I've decided to draw so many of them. And at the same time, there's a common bond with people that are in the arts. There's a level of respect and a level of loyalty and friendship that is, I've never found anything greater than that. So I have actually found most of my social circles and most of the best friends that I have are also people I've trained with and or been involved with in the martial arts most of my life. I'm asked whether I have advice for other martial artists. I like at least giving the perspective that martial arts is a luxury. No one has to take martial arts. It's a luxury. I live in a city called Pasadena, California, And in our city, there are 37 martial arts schools listed in the phone book. And we only have 3 McDonald's, but yet we have 37 martial arts schools. So it shows how heavily involved the martial arts industry is in the world, let alone just each individual city. It's a huge industry. It's very diversified. There's a lot of different groups that are out there. But because I do feel that it's a luxury, I think it's important to be respectful of the fact that people are in that. They don't have to choose it. And when they choose it, my advice is that you just make sure that you don't take it so serious. When you're in the street and you need to apply your skills in a street environment is when I suggest you take it serious. But in the meantime, it's about having fun. It's about enjoying yourself. And I usually tell people when I travel and I do seminars, I said, look, if you're not enjoying what you do, find something else. Because in this industry, we need more positive-based people, and positive stems from the mind, stems from an attitude. And I think it's important that you have fun what you're doing. There's so many branches that you can explore within the arts. You can do self-defense, or you can do tournaments, or you can get into extreme martial arts or grappling, or there's just different flavors. And my suggestion is that get a different taste from different arts and see what they have to offer. And I like to follow a couple of philosophies that I grew up around. There was a Bruce Lee philosophy that was emulated on the title of a book that a man named Dan Inosanto wrote. And the title of the book says, "Absorb what is useful." I was raised to be more like a sponge, that you look at other people's arts, you look at the way they solve things, because in my opinion, martial arts is nothing more than problem solving. As martial artists, you theorize about how you'd be attacked, how people would approach you in different confrontational ways, and how you would solve the problem about the way that they speak to you physically, and you respond to them as a debate physically. And so as martial artists, we are more theorists than we are practical application individuals, unless you're more involved in the actual ring situations, like the cage matches or any kind of fighting, kickboxing, stuff like that, where you actually have experience with fighting in a ring and stuff like that. If you're not involved in that branch of the martial arts, a lot of the stuff that we do in the arts is about theorizing about possible problems and trying to articulate ways of solving the problem, either through aggressive ways or passive ways, and there are different variations off of that. So my advice is just to have some fun and explore and keep an open mind and be aware that a lot of times things that are being taught today have been kept alive for thousands of years. And they have been kept alive for thousands of years because some people have died to keep that information alive. Another piece of advice: learn about your lineage. Learn about the history of martial arts. I think that if you don't learn about the history, then you bury those that have kept what was passionate to them and what was important to them. They kept it alive in the teachings. They kept it alive for people to teach today. And I think we honor our legacy, we honor our lineages, we honor our ancestors by remembering their stories, by teaching what they taught us, and learn who taught us these things. Learn who your instructor is, learn who your instructor's instructor was, and keep going back as far as you can so that you preserve those memories of those people who were passionate enough to keep the arts alive for you to learn. What's in the future for me? My role as an artist is to provide, high quality artwork, just to change our presentation for the industry. I'm also create a company called Diplomas with a Z, diplomas.com, which provides an opportunity for people to get more of a higher level of awards to honor those that have gone down the journey of receiving a black belt, or whatever art where they receive the their ultimate goal is to reach a certain level of mastery. And I run a company that allows really high-end awards to be awarded for black belts, and as well as other belts. There's different things as far as publishing is concerned. I've published a number of books, I've done a number of magazines, and I like to support different functions such as the Martial Arts History Museum and any other kind of function. There's a group in Australia that are martial artists for peace, so I like to definitely donate and generate what kind of support I can for keeping a balance in the industry. It can't always be aggressive. There's got to be a balance between positive and negative, and right and wrong, and night and day, and whatever. And I think that one of the things I like to encourage is that we have in the martial arts industry itself, we have a lot of what I call the herding arts. And what I'd like to see in the future is people that implement also some of the healing arts. Learning a little bit more about massage, or learning more about acupuncture, acupressure, and things to counterbalance some of the things. Because when we work out as martial artists, sometimes our training partners and everything else are allowing us to actually use them physically to check out our theories and our concepts and stuff like that. But as a result, we have a tendency to break people, and I think it's important that if you're going to be breaking people, you should at least spend some time learning how to heal people as well, so that there's a balance that's out there. In the future, I also have plans of reworking a lot of my dad's material in its presentation, not his written word, but in the presentation of his word. And right now we're working on a complete compendium of some of his works. My company has been involved with that. We have about 5,000 pages. I think we got another 5-6 years before we release this material, and it's just definitely have a lot of information that we're working on. Also working on a line of clothing for the martial arts industry. Should be pretty exciting. My role models. Oh, those are good, interesting questions. My role models is anybody who's out there and still doing this and still does it with a smile on their face. I grew up with a tremendous amount of legends such as Benny the Jet Urquidez, and my father was definitely a role model for myself. A lot of his senior students are still role models. Steve Labounty, Dr. Chappelle is definitely a role model for me. Frank Trejo has been a phenomenal influence in my life. Most people, within my branch, I admire. I've cross-trained in an art called Sistema. I definitely look up to a man named Vladimir Vasilius. I look up to a guy named Lee Wedlake. Martin Wheeler, a good friend of mine, training partner in the past, and very much look up to his skills and abilities. Acknowledge my family. Of course, I'd love to acknowledge my father, Ed Parker Sr. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be anywhere I am today. I love him dearly, and I thank him for his influence on my life and for putting food on my table all these years. It's been 17 years since his passing, and his influence still provides my family a living and allows me to do that. I'd like to thank my wife and my children for all their support, and for the martial arts community at large. I've had a tremendous amount of friends in this industry, and the people I'm closest to are in this industry, and I can't thank, I wish I had a list of all the people who've definitely influenced my life and have been great friends of mine, and sisters and brothers in the arts, and I'm grateful for all those people that have been in my life and in my training. It says here on the bottom here, if you were going to be remembered by only one of the last things you said on this interview, what would it be? My thing is that whatever you do in life, whether it's martial arts or whatever, find your passion. Find what makes you go to bed late every night and makes you wake up early every morning. For some reason, we all have that zest. We all have that thing that gets excited when we're young. When we get older, we sometimes forget to look for that thing that makes us excited. And my big thing is that when you're motivated by something you're passionate about, when you're really passionate about it, it motivates you to do it no matter what. You get your goals accomplished, you fulfill your visions, and you do whatever it takes to get your passion fulfilled. And so if there's any one thing that I can say that's ruled my life, it's been the passions that I've had in my life. I have a passion for martial arts, and I have a passion for art. And my blending of the two has kept me so that I live that point in my life where I do go to bed late every night and I wake up early every morning because I'm excited and I'm heavily motivated to do everything that I want in my life and accomplish whatever goals I can. So my advice or my hopes is that you don't lose track of what you're passionate about, and whatever you do, do it with your whole heart and soul. I think that's what works for me in my life. Thank you for your time, and I wish you well with your martial arts journey.